2022. A year filled with movies. Some good, others not so much.
Because the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change.
But one movie really stands out, and that's a little movie called Fall. This movie is probably one of the worst movies I have ever seen. It's not as blatantly terrible as a mockbuster, or as lazy and unoriginal as a live-action remake, but as a movie, it just fails at every moment to do anything. No other movie has ever made me feel so many emotions in all of the wrong ways. For context, I went to see this movie with my dad and sister in cinemas, and by the end, me and my dad were laughing. Not because this movie was funny, but because it failed so spectacularly. I have got a lot of issues with this movie, and so to keep us moving, I'll be going over the events of the movie and just interjecting as we go. So without any more preamble, let's just get right into the movie. Our movie starts out with 3 mountain climbers climbing mountains, and these are our main characters, except for this guy, because he dies. First up is Becky. She's married, or was married, to our aforementioned dead guy. We learn more about her later, but for now, much like a woman in the Middle Ages, all that's really important is that she's married. The other girl is Hunter. She's adventurous and likes mountain climbing, if that wasn't obvious enough. She also has boobs! And yes, this will be important later. After Becky's husband dies, we skip ahead a little bit to her mourning him. We get a quick dream sequence where she remembers how her husband used to always say 143 instead of I love you.
I love you. You're not gonna say it back?
I am saying it. 1, 4, 3.
This seemingly unimportant detail will be important to the story, but for now, just save it for later. We then get to meet Becky's dad, played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan. He's probably the best part of this movie, mainly just because he's only in it for 2 minutes. He tries to convince his daughter to spread her husband's ashes.
I just want you to be able to move on with your life.
But she's reluctant to. This is when Hunter shows back up at Becky's door, having not seen her since the accident. And instead of catching up with her old friend, Hunter immediately asks, "Hey, do you want to come climb a big-ass rusty tower?" No, not really. YouTube ad revenue. Becky decides to join her friend as a means to spread Loverboy's ashes, because a big-ass rusty tower in the middle of a desert is definitely where you want your ashes to be spread. So, first issue here, and don't worry, this one might seem pretty minor, but it gets way worse as we go. They neglect to tell anybody where they're going. And now, I am no climber, but I do scuba diving. And typically, with these sorts of potentially deadly activities, you should have someone who knows where you're going. Especially egregious, since Jeffrey Dean Morgan is right there. Just tell him where you're going. The 2 girls drive to the big-ass tower, stopping at Denny's or some shit for breakfast. Which is probably a worse punishment than anything that happens on that tower. You then get some incredibly natural-sounding dialogue.
No. What we're doing here, this is clickbait.
And definitely don't do a poor job at foreshadowing by showing off this one neat trick to charge your phone using a light bulb hole. Do not do this at home unless you feel like starting an electrical fire. Despite that warning, remember this as it will be important. Finally, the 2 of them reach the bottom of the tower, where Hunter reveals she's recording this for her YouTube channel, shown by her unzipping her top to show off her boobs for that juicy clickbait.
I didn't wear this stupid bra for nothing. No.
Now, in a vacuum, that's like a fine plot point that she's a YouTuber, but is that not crazy insensitive? This is meant to be about spreading her friend's husband's ashes, but she's making a Mr. Beast video about it. Today, I am going to be spreading my friend's husband's ashes on top of this tower. You can say this is meant to characterize Hunter as a bit of an asshole, but Becky never brings this up again, and it's not really framed as weird as I think it should be. The girls start to climb the tower, and we get probably the only segment I think is decent in this movie. While they're climbing up, there's plenty of these tight shots and the creaking and groaning sounds of the tower. It's honestly a pretty stressful scene. So congratulations, Fall, you have one good scene. It is all downhill from here. And actually, I take it back, because it's actually downhill during this scene as well. Because while they're climbing this tower, that is meant to be a tense scene, they keep doing the stupidest shit. They use no gear, and Becky starts singing a song about falling down.
Ashes, ashes, we all fall down.
You would think these two want to die! They eventually reach the top of the tower and spread the husband's ashes, getting some footage with a drone so that you can make your friend's grief extra cinematic. They spend a quick moment talking at the top of the tower before deciding to head back down. But oh no! The rickety old piece of shit tower is rickety and old and starts to fall apart? Who would have seen this coming? Thankfully for them, only falling apart at non-vital areas, otherwise we might have got to go home early. They start to freak out, understandably, before remembering that the comforts of the 21st century include more than just sex dolls dressed like Goku for some reason.
Is that all you got?
They have phones. And now, this is my next major problem, and it is a problem that permeates the entire rest of the movie. Their phones do not work. They have no reception, despite being ridiculously high up. They try to play it off by saying that the satellite dishes on the tower are interrupting their signal, but are you really gonna tell me this rickety-ass tower is interrupting modern cell phone signals so badly that they cannot make an emergency call? And even if we take into account that they are in the middle of the desert, even though we've seen cars and buildings nearby, most modern phones can still use satellites or other signals in order to make emergency calls. And none of this would have been an issue if they'd told someone where they were going! They try to lower themselves down to get a signal using a piece of rope, but when that doesn't work, they concoct a plan that rivals the most masterful of chess players, the greatest military minds, the smartest scientists to ever live! They start a phone call at the top of the tower, and then throw the phone off in a shoe, because of course, there'll be better reception on the ground. Surprise, surprise, this plan fails, and the phone explodes. Great plan, guys. At some point while they're hanging out up there, some guys come by in a car, and they start throwing things at them to try to get their attention. And being the gentlemen that they are, the dudes steal the car. And the girls start to break down, now knowing that even if they do get off this tower, they deal with a carless desert, and worse, American insurance companies. During this scene, they also shoot an emergency flare, which no one sees. And reminder, this tower is close enough to a road that you can see it from the diner. And we know this road is reasonably busy, since we see cars and trucks driving on it, but nobody notices the flare? So now, stuck at the top of this tower, the two start to talk. And this is where Hunter accidentally shows off her ankles like a harlot, and Becky is able to catch a glimpse of a tattoo. A tattoo of the numbers 143. Now, any normal person might ask about this tattoo. Ask about the numbers, their meaning, probe a little, just talk about it. Nope! Becky immediately decides it is related to the incredibly specific thing her dead husband used to say to her, leading to her guessing that her husband was cheating on her with Hunter. And of course, she's right.
So sorry for sleeping with my husband or me finding out about it. For falling in love with the same guy.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Now, this is foreshadowed a tiny bit when the guy dies, as Hunter is trying really hard to save him. But like, I don't think I need to be fornicating with someone to not want them to fall to their death. They argue for a bit, but it was so boring I blanked most of it out of my memory. Hunter says they were going to tell her, but just never found the right time. So they had time to get a commemorative tattoo, but not to tell their friend. And speaking of which, who gets a tattoo about the guy they're cheating with? And furthermore, why was he saying 143? You'd think he was saying that to Becky since he was involved with Hunter and actually liked her. But no, I guess he just says that to all his side pieces. The two decide to try climbing down again, since their bag fell onto the satellite dish earlier, I forgot to mention that. and it's got all their supplies in it, being food, water, and their drone from earlier. So Hunter goes to climb down while Becky holds a rope. But shocker, things go wrong, and Becky's forced to put her entire body into lifting Hunter back up. Now, at this point, like 2 days pass, I think. Becky has a big-ass cut in her leg that I also forgot to mention. The two of them now only realize that they have a drone they can use to signal for help. But unfortunately, they are both stupid and forgot to turn it off properly, so its batteries are dead. However, Becky has a 10 million IQ plan. What if I use the light at the top of the tower, like the lamp in the diner? So she heads to the top and takes out the light, but the plug is too short, so she shoves a ring into the hole. And hold it! I am not an electrical engineer, but I'm pretty sure the volts required to charge a drone and to light this tower are very different. The most likely scenario is that the drone explodes. And that's not even the worst of it. I'll use a diagram to explain this one, and forgive me, it's been a while since my high school science classes. This is a power source. This is a circuit, and this is an LED light. The power source sends power through the circuits to the LED, causing it to light up. This is our tower, a very basic version of it, but a working one nonetheless. Now, an important feature of this circuit is that it goes back to the power source after the LED. If we remove the LED, there is now nothing using the power, and so all of the power is being sent right back to the source. And this is what causes a short circuit. So now look at this diagram of the tower. We remove the light at the top of the tower, and now we remove the light. Now this on its own wouldn't cause a short circuit, I'm sure there's other things using the power, but by putting a ring connecting the two prongs, you are going to break something. Especially since this tower is old. It is not going to have any fancy tech in it to protect itself from short-circuiting or other electrical issues. Most likely, the tower's just going to die. And after all of that, even if the tower was completely fine, even if there were no short circuits or any other electrical issues, she was still handling all of these electrical components with her bare hands while the power was still on, including placing a metal ring into a live power socket. Did her parents never teach her about sticking a fork in an electrical socket? She's dead. Completely dead. Fully fried. Dead. Movie should have ended right here. Of course it doesn't, and it works perfectly, and she charges the drone. Minus the vulture attacks. Also, why is there just a regular light bulb at the top of this tower? It's just like a regular home light bulb under a little red cap. Could the prop guy not find a better light bulb? The girls have a bit more heart-to-heart, and then they fly the drone to the diner. But being as they are stupid, they instead fly it directly into oncoming traffic. And this is just stupid. I know they're delirious, but if they flew the drone like a meter higher, they would have been fine. And I guess I should mention that they put a note on the drone so the diner worker would know they were in trouble. After all this bullshit, and I mean bullshit, they decide to throw the only remaining phone using Hunter's other shoe, because it worked so wonderfully the first time. This is when we get hit with a twist, so twisty it made me want to twist my head around a rope. Becky asks for Hunter's other shoe, where she reveals it's down there.
It's down there. It's on your foot. Yes. But I'm down there. Remember?
As when Hunter fell earlier and Becky caught her, she actually fell onto the satellite dish and died. Now this is where I completely lost any hope for this movie when I first saw it. Not only does this invalidate like half of the movie with the relationship between the two, but it's also a ripoff of the movie 57 Meters Deep, which was an equally shitty twist in that movie, but at least it makes sense, since being that deep in the water would make you be under the effects of gas narcosis and have you hallucinate things. In this movie, Becky just starts hallucinating after being on this tower for like 2 days. And Ghost Hunter here tries to pass it off, saying that the shock of the death made her hallucinate, which is stupid. But even if you believe she was hallucinating, it still is stupid because it completely ruins all of the growth the two characters had together. Now, all those conversations they had were pointless, because Hunter died an hour ago and half the conversations were with a ghost. Now, this doesn't totally come out of left field. There is some slight foreshadowing, with Hunter saying things she shouldn't know, like Becky's favorite wrestler.
Mankind. Mankind. Oh, wait, I thought you said you didn't watch it. I didn't. Keep going, you need to stay awake.
But even that is stupid, because you're telling me these two were meant to be best friends, but Hunter isn't meant to know Becky's favorite wrestler? That never came up in a conversation before? Most of the other bits of foreshadowing, I just wrote off as the characters being stupid. Like how all of the misadventures they go on, Becky is the one doing them, climbing the tower and charging the drone, or flying the drone, even though Hunter was the one that knew how to fly it. These are all little things that can help you pick up on this twist early. And maybe if this was in a better movie, I'd be praising this. But here, I just thought the characters were so stupid, they were getting Becky to do it, even though Hunter should have been the one doing it. This whole thing would be like if Tyler Durden was a real dude who died in one of the support groups, and then the narrator just kept pretending he was there. Moving on. So after all of this, Becky is at the end of her rope. We cut the scene, and she's lying there, probably dead. A vulture comes down and starts picking at her leg wound. And ladies and gentlemen, if you thought this movie was stupid before, wait until you see this. While this vulture is picking at Becky's leg, she wakes up, grabs it by the throat. This vulture, that might I add, is almost the same size as her, doesn't even try to fly away, it just slightly struggles against this woman on the brink of death and let her beat it to death. She then starts to eat it! I shouldn't have to tell you that eating raw bird is bad for you. Especially this moldy-ass vulture. She is dying from disease long before she ever hits the bottom of this tower. Apparently, this vulture is a superfood. As now, Becky has more energy than I think she has had the entire rest of the movie. She uses the last of her supplies to make her way down to the satellite dish where Hunter's dead body is. Somehow, this vulture gives her the strength of 1,000. And she neglects to fasten her clips. She drops down to Hunter, scaring off the vultures whose lives she generously spares. And after all of this, everything that has happened, her plan is to do the exact same thing as before, putting her phone in Hunter's other shoe. But this time, it's even stupider. She decides to put the phone in the shoe, and then the shoe inside of Hunter's stomach, and then pushes Hunter off the tower.
That's right, we're going back in time to the first Thanksgiving to get turkeys off.
I have no words. I have already gone over why the shoe idea earlier was stupid, and this is just extra stupid. If anything, putting the phone in someone falling from that height would probably do more damage to the phone. But whatever. Somehow, this works. We then get 30 seconds of reprieve as Jeffrey Dean Morgan graces this movie with another glorified cameo. He gets to the tower while it's surrounded by cops, and sees a body being covered. Terrified that it's his daughter, he gives an incredibly unimpressed "no" before actually getting reunited with his daughter. She goes up to him, and he says, "Let's go home." And then they leave. What the fuck do you mean, let's go home? First, there is a dead body right there. The police are going to want Becky for questioning. For all anybody knows, she pushed Hunter off that tower. For all they know, they're letting a potential murderer walk off free. 2, despite being up on this tower for like what, 4 or 5 days with a minimal food and water, and having a massive cut on her leg that a vulture was eating from, while being on a tower so rusty you'd get tetanus just by looking at it, she's just allowed to go home? The medical dude in the ambulance just lets her go? She should 1000% be taken to a hospital. And don't forget, not long ago, she ate raw vulture meat. She could have diseases not seen since the Mesopotamia era. But no, she's fine. Let her go home with her dad. Not to mention, she ate at Denny's. And number 3, and this is a lot more of a nitpick, but they kind of just brush off the sort of emotional effect this would have on a person. She cries for a second, and she hugs her dad, and then they go off. And I'm not expecting the movie to go super into detail on the emotional trauma this sort of event would leave on you. But the movie just ends with this really stupid quote that means fuck all in the context of the movie.
Life is fleeting. Life is short. Too short. So you gotta use every moment. You have to do something that makes you feel alive. And that shit, that would spread that message far and wide.
Are they trying to say that climbing towers that lead to people's death is being alive? Is she saying she feels alive now that she's had a near-death experience? Fuck Hunter, I guess. And the last line just sounds stupid. I've got nothing deeper to say about this. I just don't like how it sounds. It sounds stupid. And I thought the whole point of climbing this tower was to get over her dead husband. Fuck that, now she's got a dead friend as well. And then the movie ends. And thank God it does, because I don't know how much longer I could take that. I am never letting my sister pick the movie again. So with all that out of the way and my movie recap over, there's a few more things I want to go over. First of all, how the movie actually looks, because I don't know how well it shows up in a YouTube video, but the actual movie does not look very good. All the CGI never looks abominably bad, but it's never good either. It's passable at best, with some scenes looking really bad. I will give them some credit for the fact that they actually did build a real tower on top of a desert mountain to help give the illusion of this massive tower, and plenty of shots did take place on this real tower. The 2 actresses were even offered stunt doubles, but ended up doing all of the shots themselves, which is genuinely commendable. It's a shame that all of this work went to one of the worst written scripts possible. However, the compliments end there. Because moving on from how the movie looks, to some more behind the scenes things, when the movie's distribution rights were bought by Lionsgate, they wanted the director, Scott Mann, to cut 60 uses of the word fuck, so they could market the movie to a younger audience. And Scott Mann, being a cheapskate apparently, decided that refilming some scenes to fit their distributor's wants, or finding a new distributor, would be too expensive. So he reached out to a company called Flawless. A new company who specializes in AI deepfakes. And with their help, they were able to deepfake all of the scenes where swears were used and swap them with age-appropriate alternatives. This was my biggest shock prior to recording this. When I was hating this movie before, I was hating the movie for the love of the game. But now I find out that Scott Mann is actually just a piece of shit and is the first person to use this AI technology in a movie. I'm not gonna solely blame Scott Mann for the push to include AI in movies, but when you are the first person to do it, you're gonna catch some of the slack. Alright, so quick addendum, I just found out he's the co-owner of Flawless. So no, go fuck him. This movie was also reasonably successful. It grossed $21 million against a $3 million budget. Scott Mann is a not small reason for the AI push in movies. And of course, it got incredibly popular on Netflix, and now 2 sequels are in the works, with both Scott Mann returning to direct and write, and Flawless to probably deepfake in half of the actors, because this is where society is heading towards. For my last point, I want to go back to the story. Because really, what was the point of it? I don't mean to the audience, because obviously it was made to scare teenagers who've never seen a thriller before. But in the context of the movie itself, what was the point? Was it a movie about a woman getting over the death of her husband and her fear of climbing? Barely! She stops being afraid of climbing after about 5 minutes, and I doubt she'll ever want to climb again after that. And her husband was an arse! It wasn't about these 2 characters reconciling. For most of the movie, one of them's an imaginary friend. Was it about Becky getting a new lease on life? I really doubt it. After all this she's been through, she's probably gonna feel 10 times worse. The only reason the movie seems to have a happy-ish ending is because of that stupid quote, and the fact that the movie ends before we see any ramifications of this event. Overall, it just feels pointless. nothing was really gained. Becky just learned all her friends sucked and were cheating on her. Hooray! And according to Wikipedia, previous characters will be returning in the sequels. So unless they mean Jeffrey Dean Morgan, Becky will probably be thrust into another dangerous situation where nothing really happens. And this isn't to say you can't have a movie with a negative ending, but typically those movies have something they're trying to say. They have some deeper point they want to bring, something that justifies their own existence in the movie. This movie just feels like it has nothing. All you really get out of this is watching these two women be tortured on top of a tower for 2 hours. Finally, we've reached the end of my ramblings. If you've enjoyed, please leave a like and a comment. And if you didn't, tell me I fell off in the comments. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and... Oh, hang on, I need to take this. Hello? Check YouTube.